Throughout history, the lives of famous figures have often been cut short by those driven by envy, ideology, or a desperate need for attention. Today, we'll uncover the shocking stories of 24 killers who targeted well-known individuals, diving into their motives, backgrounds, and the tragic events that forever change history. Let's begin. 1. Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon. Mark David Chapman was a former security guard and a devoted fan of the Beatles. On December 8, 1980, he fatally shot John Lennon outside his Manhattan apartment. Chapman claimed he was inspired by the novel The Catcher in the Rye and was angered by Lennon's comment that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. Chapman had a history of mental health issues and was obsessed with the idea of gaining fame by killing someone famous. Despite his claims of remorse, he remains one of the most infamous celebrity killers in history.
John came out and he looked at me and I think he recognized, here's the fellow that I signed the album earlier. I took 5 steps toward the street, turned, withdrew my Charter Arms 38 and fired 5 shots into his back.
2. James Earl Ray killed Martin Luther King Jr. James Earl Ray was an escaped convict with a history of burglary and armed robbery. On April 4, 1968, he assassinated civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee. Ray was reportedly motivated by racism and his opposition to King's civil rights activism. Captured after a global manhunt, Ray confessed to the killing but later recanted, claiming a conspiracy. His background revealed a troubled life of crime and prejudice, culminating in one of the most tragic acts of the 20th century. 3. Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy. Lee Harvey Oswald was a former U.S. Marine who defected to the Soviet Union before returning to America with his Russian wife. On November 22, 1963, Oswald assassinated President John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas, from the Texas School Book Depository. His motivations remain unclear, though he expressed frustration with U.S. policies and had Marxist leanings. Oswald was killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby before he could stand trial, leaving many questions about his life and the assassination unanswered. 4. Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Jack Ruby was a Dallas nightclub owner with alleged connections to organized crime. On November 24, 1963, Ruby shot and killed Lee Harvey Oswald in the Dallas police headquarters. Ruby claimed he killed Oswald out of anger and a desire to spare Jacqueline Kennedy from testifying at a trial. His impulsive act thrust him into the limelight, and his background revealed a life steeped in debt, nightclub management, and controversial associations. 5. Gavrilo Princip killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Gavrilo Princip was a Bosnian Serb nationalist and member of the Black Hand organization. On June 28, 1914, he assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in Sarajevo. His act was motivated by his desire for Serbian independence from Austro-Hungarian rule. Princip's assassination is often credited with sparking World War I. A young man with little formal education, Princip's actions altered the course of global history. 6. John Wilkes Booth killed Abraham Lincoln. John Wilkes Booth was a famous American stage actor and Confederate sympathizer. On April 14, 1865, he fatally shot President Abraham Lincoln at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Booth was motivated by his anger over the South's defeat in the Civil War and Lincoln's abolitionist policies. Despite his privileged upbringing and successful career, Booth's radical beliefs led him to commit one of the most infamous crimes in American history. 7. Sirhan Sirhan killed Robert F. Kennedy. Sirhan Sirhan, a Palestinian immigrant, assassinated Senator Robert F. Kennedy on June 5, 1968, in Los Angeles. Sirhan claimed he killed Kennedy due to his support for Israel during the Six-Day War. Born in Jerusalem, Sirhan faced a turbulent childhood and held deep political grievances. His actions shocked the nation and ended the presidential aspirations of one of America's most prominent politicians. 8. Aaron Burr killed Alexander Hamilton. Aaron Burr was an American politician and vice president under Thomas Jefferson. On July 11, 1804, Burr killed Alexander Hamilton in a duel after a long-standing personal and political rivalry. Burr believed Hamilton had tarnished his reputation and sabotaged his political career. Despite his esteemed position, Burr's life spiraled into scandal after the duel, and he was later accused of treason. 9. Yigal Amir killed Yitzhak Rabin. Yigal Amir was an Israeli, ultranationalist, and law student. On November 4th, 1995, he assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin during a peace rally in Tel Aviv. Amir opposed Rabin's peace efforts with Palestinians, believing they betrayed Jewish interests. Raised in a religious family, Amir's radical views led him to commit an act that deeply divided Israeli society. 10. Leon Czolgosz killed William McKinley. Leon Czolgosz was an anarchist who assassinated U.S. President William McKinley on September 6, 1901. Czolgosz believed McKinley represented oppressive capitalism and sought to make a political statement. Born to Polish immigrants, he lived a life of poverty and became disillusioned with the government. His radicalization led to the tragic loss of America's 25th president. 11. Nathuram Godse killed Mahatma Gandhi. Nathuram Godse was an Indian nationalist and former member of the Hindu Mahasabha. On January 30th, 1948, he assassinated Mahatma Gandhi during a prayer meeting in New Delhi. Godse was opposed to Gandhi's advocacy for Hindu-Muslim unity and believed his policies favored Muslims over Hindus. Born in a conservative Brahmin family, Godse's extremist ideology and frustration with India's partition drove him to murder the leader who had fought for the nation's independence. 12. Charles J. Gutel killed James A. Garfield. Charles J. Gutel was a disgruntled lawyer and unsuccessful office seeker. On July 2, 1881, he shot President James A. Garfield at a train station in Washington, D.C. Gutel believed he was entitled to a political appointment in Garfield's administration and felt slighted when he was ignored. His erratic behavior and delusional thinking, later linked to mental illness, culminated in the assassination of the 20th U.S. president. 13. Brutus and the conspirators killed Julius Caesar. Marcus Junius Brutus, along with other Roman senators, assassinated Julius Caesar on March 15, 44 BCE, during a Senate meeting. Brutus and his co-conspirators feared Caesar's growing power and his transition from a republic to a dictatorship. Despite their political motivations, Brutus's betrayal of his close ally Caesar is one of history's most infamous acts of treachery, a product of Roman nobility. Brutus's actions forever shaped the fate of the Roman Empire. 14. Patricia Krenwinkel, part of the Manson family, killed Sharon Tate. Patricia Krenwinkel was a devoted follower of Charles Manson. On August 9, 1969, she participated in the murder of actress Sharon Tate and 4 others at Tate's Los Angeles home. Krenwinkel was motivated by Manson's apocalyptic beliefs and his orders to kill as part of a supposed race war. Raised in a middle-class family, Krenwinkel's descent into Manson's cult and her subsequent crimes shocked the world. 15. John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo killed multiple, including FBI analyst Linda Franklin. John Allen Muhammad and his accomplice, Lee Boyd Malvo, were responsible for the 2002 D.C. sniper attacks, which included the killing of FBI analyst Linda Franklin. Muhammad, a Gulf War veteran, and Malvo, a teenager he mentored, carried out the attacks to create chaos and possibly extort money. Muhammad's troubled military past and Malvo's manipulation into believing in Muhammad's violent plans led to a killing spree that terrorized the nation. 16. Giuseppe Zangara attempted to kill Franklin D. Roosevelt, killed Anton Cermak. Giuseppe Zangara, an Italian immigrant, attempted to assassinate Franklin D. Roosevelt on February 15, 1933, but instead killed Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak. Zangara, a bricklayer, claimed he was motivated by his hatred of wealthy elites and his own chronic pain. A loner with anarchist sympathies, Zangara's poorly executed plan resulted in the tragic death of an unintended victim. 17. Byron de la Beckwith killed Medgar Evers. Byron de la Beckwith was a white supremacist and member of the Ku Klux Klan. On June 12, 1963, he assassinated civil rights activist Medgar Evers in Jackson, Mississippi. Beckwith opposed Evers's work to end segregation and advance civil rights for black Americans. Raised in a conservative Southern family, Beckwith's deep-seated racism and hatred fueled his crime, which highlighted the violent resistance to the civil rights movement. 18. Arthur Bremer attempted to kill George Wallace. Arthur Bremer was a troubled loner who attempted to assassinate presidential candidate George Wallace on May 15, 1972, leaving Wallace paralyzed. Bremer sought fame and notoriety, initially planning to target Richard Nixon, but settling on Wallace as an easier target. A high school dropout with a history of social isolation, Bremer's diary revealed a disturbing obsession with gaining recognition through violence. 19. Dan White killed Harvey Milk and George Moscone. Dan White, a former San Francisco supervisor, killed Harvey Milk and Mayor George Moscone on November 27, 1978. White, angered by his resignation and the subsequent refusal to reinstate him, acted out of personal and political frustration. A Vietnam veteran and former police officer, White's crime and the controversial Twinkie defense at his trial became a landmark moment in LGBTQ+ history. 20. Robert John Bardo killed Rebecca Schaeffer. Robert John Bardo was an obsessed fan of actress Rebecca Schaeffer. On July 18, 1989, he shot her at her home after she stopped responding to his letters. Bardo was infuriated by a romantic scene she performed in a film, which he perceived as a betrayal. Born into a troubled family, Bardo's infatuation with celebrities and his unchecked mental illness led to this shocking crime. 21. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, killed Hugh Scruton. Ted Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber, killed Hugh Scruton, a California computer store owner, with a mail bomb on December 11, 1985. Kaczynski, a former math professor, waged a campaign against technology and industrial society. A recluse living in a remote cabin, Kaczynski's intellectual brilliance contrasted with his deadly actions, fueled by radical environmentalism and a desire to disrupt modern life. 22. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, Columbine shooters, killed 13 people. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold carried out the Columbine High School massacre on April 20th, 1999, killing 13 people. They were motivated by a combination of bullying, mental health struggles, and a desire for infamy. Both teenagers were from suburban families, but their access to weapons and growing nihilistic views led to one of the deadliest school shootings in U.S. history. 23. Carl Weiss killed Huey Long. Carl Weiss, a physician, assassinated Louisiana Senator Huey Long on September 8, 1935. Weiss reportedly acted in defense of his family's honor after Long threatened to ruin his father-in-law's career. A respected doctor, Weiss's decision to confront Long with a gun resulted in his death and the end of Long's controversial political career. 24. Andrew Cunanan killed Gianni Versace. Andrew Cunanan was a spree killer who murdered fashion designer Gianni Versace on July 15, 1997. Cunanan, a con artist with a history of fraud and lies, was already wanted for multiple murders. Motivated by jealousy, financial troubles, and a desire for attention, Cunanan's unstable personality and manipulative behavior culminated in his final act of violence before taking his own life. From political assassinations to tragic murders driven by obsession, these stories remind us of the dark complexities of human behavior. While the killers sought infamy, their acts left behind legacies of grief, loss, and a world forever altered. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that explore the darker side of history.